This is the Daily Freakout, the podcast that no one watches or listens to, and that's fine because the quality is not so great just at the moment. Anyway, today we've got some Donald Trump talk, we've got some AI dealing with ride sharing, and we've got some advice on what you should be doing fitness-wise. And I've just noticed that we have a low battery on one piece of equipment. So who knows, this might not even go the full half hour that I always intend it to go. And of course, we will be listening to Jolly Dr. Dollywell.
On the radio for the news, he got a big surprise because this is what he heard.
The big news for today is that the special guest of honor on our children's program is Horatio The Horsie-o.
That's true. Horatio The Horsie-o is our special guest today. That's Horatio there. If you haven't been paying attention and watching the show, that's our record of the week. Marian Abison's Jolly Dr. Dollywell. It's an interesting old school kids record where they're trying to teach kids stuff, and we'll see how it goes. That I'm literally dropping the needle at random spots. I haven't even heard it, so I'm hearing it for the first time with you, and we'll see how it goes. It's going to be really interesting to hear what happens next. But before we get to that, let's talk about the absurdity of some people in this world. Lyft responds after driver uses AI to fake damage and charge riders fees. It's so disappointing in this world that we live in that people try to scam other people. And I get it that like everyone's trying to make money and everyone's trying to improve their lot and get more money. But if it's not business owners not paying their staff right or scamming their staff out of things, it's people like this trying to scam customers effectively in their ride-sharing app. So according to the news article from Dexerto.com, I've never heard of this website before, but it looks like they've got some stuff going on. What happened was two teenage girls went to the beach. And on the way home, so there's 14 and 15-year-old girls. They went to the... low power mode, everybody. Stay tuned. If you... There's tension behind the scenes here today. They went to the beach and they came home and they got a Lyft car on the way home. Makes sense. And then the driver allegedly submitted photos to Lyft claiming that the teens left a mess in the back seat, which included spilled drinks, fries, and a large yellow stain across the seats. And we can see in the image here, that is apparently the photo that was shown to the Lyft driver, or the Lyft app that the driver submitted to. And if you looked at it, you'd go, okay, yeah, look, that's damage. Yeah, sure. They can't, if you're a passenger in one of these cars, you can't do that. You can't just leave that kind of stuff there. So yeah, absolutely, they should be charged a $75 damage fee. That makes complete sense. But then, and the reporter spoke to the dad of the girls, or at least one of the girls, and the guy said they didn't even have food or drinks in the car. These girls were coming back from the beach, and they disputed it with Lyft. They said, no, they didn't do that. That's not, we dispute that, obviously. And so Lyft showed them the photo that the driver had taken and showed them what had happened. And the driver showed it to the kids, and the kids said, Dad, that's AI. You can see the Gemini logo at the bottom right-hand side of one of the photos. The guy the idiot driver who was trying to scam these kids to make a bit more... Now, it brings up the question, and I don't agree, but it brings up the question, is it okay to steal a loaf of bread for your family? Is this guy just trying to hustle and just trying to get more money? Like, is that... Obviously, this is going too far, but where's that line of you've got to claim everything. Like, you know those people that you've dealt with in your life that have said, you've just got to claim everything. You've got to just claim this, claim that, scam this, scam that, get to the front of the line, get an extra free popcorn, all that kind of stuff. There's a certain limit, in my opinion. I like not to do that kind of stuff. I like to pay for what I've used, get what I got, and move on. But there are those people who are like, actually, this is slightly not related, but my mum one time said that when you go to a restaurant, you tell them you've got 11 people, but then you turn up with just 10. You always had 10. And that way you get a little bit of extra room on the table. They don't squeeze you in somewhere. And I was like, Mum, as someone who works in hospitality, please never do that again. That is terrible. Because that one seat is effectively lost money for the restaurant. Because they make money by having bums in seats eating food. So that's the kind of scammy thing that people think, oh, we're just getting a good deal, blah, 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 blah. And that kind of stuff maybe is a bit harmless. One seat's not that big a deal, etc., etc. But where do you draw that line? Obviously, I don't think this guy's just bullshit. It's terrible. And now, good for Lyft. Lyft apparently said, yep, you're absolutely right. That is AI generated. That is bullshit. They refunded the $75 fine, or extra fee, and apparently they have parted ways with this driver and said, no, if you're going to do shit like that, you can't work for us anymore because that looks bad on us if we let that happen. So that's all good. But I was talking with some of the kids at work last night, and AI has just gotten to the point where you literally cannot trust anything anymore. And if I was a bit smoother and had thought about this talking point better, I would have the example up and stuff. But I took a photo the other day, and I wanted to use it for some Daily Freakout, a picture for the Daily Freakout. And I was like, look, there's a bit of advertising on a fence at the local footy oval in this photo, and I don't really want that there because that company might not want to associate with me, and I don't know that company, blah, blah, blah. So I happened to go into my phone, and in the phone you can now do a cleanup. They've got technology in there, and it's obviously AI of some kind. It's a Photoshop type thing, and it's the cleanup feature. And you literally just wiggle your finger over what you want to quote-unquote clean up, and it disappears. They get rid of it for you. And I did it. I was showing one of the kids at work, and I was like, this is amazing. This is crazy. And I showed the same photo. The dogs happened to be in the photo. Asher and Doctor, but Asher in particular was in the photo. And I went, look at the dogs. And I wiped over the dog. And then a second later, poof, dog's not in the photo anymore. And I'm just like, you cannot believe anything you see. The ability to edit just on a phone, which, as I was also saying to the kids, is no longer going to be a phone. Like, the term phone is not going to mean telephone anymore. It's going to mean small individual computer, because that's what it is. I barely use my phone as a phone. It is a small touchscreen personal computer. It is crazy. But you cannot believe anything you see, because that photo, and we go back to it here, that photo, even though the quality here is not great, that photo's believable. That is a believable photo. So if the parent hadn't been so, I don't know what the right word is, but hadn't been on top of his game a bit, who knows what would have happened? Somebody would have just said, oh, what, really? Oh, okay, whatever, and let it go. But this is because, and the photo's believable. If I got sent that, I'd go, yeah, okay. But the fact that the Gemini watermark was in the bottom corner is just hilarious, and is the reason why those watermarks and stuff should be in those photos, because we don't need to have this kind of crap happening. And it just goes to show that everyone's out there scamming, everyone's trying to get the best they can, and we all need to chip in to make sure that this kind of stuff doesn't happen. Hold on 1 second, folks. I'm just going to try something here. Talk amongst yourselves. Does that do anything? Oh, that's a shame. I really thought that might do something. But it's going to help a little bit, I think, anyway.
Tractor systems are offline.
Number one for today's hits and all-time favorites.
Teeth straight from the horse's mouth.
When Farmer Shea heard this, he got so excited he rang the big dinner bell and shouted,
"Come on in, everybody. Horatio is on the radio."
And all the little farm animals ran in, mouths wide open. And this is what they heard. I'll sing you the story-o about the horse Horatio, who got very tired of working like a horse. He looked in the mirror and noticed his teeth, and said, "I should be a dentist, of course." Oh, when they...
Of course he should be a dentist. Of course. Because horses have bad teeth, apparently. Horatio the Horsie-o. For me personally, Horatio the Horsie-o as a name gets funnier every time I say it. I hope this isn't the only one of these records. I hope that there's some more of these. I'm going to have to do some research. Hopefully tomorrow I'll be able to get back to you on the last day of the week for Horatio or Dr. Dollywell being the record of the week. We'll get back and we'll see, because it's fantastic. I'm really enjoying it. Much more than I ever thought I would. Something that I do enjoy sometimes, but not all the time, and I know a lot of people don't, is exercise. And apparently, according to a new study, I believe it was out of China, maybe? Yes. Researchers from the Macau Polytechnic University in China, I assume I'm pronouncing that somewhat correctly, they set out to look at how both exercise levels and cardiorespiratory fitness, as measured by VO2 max, affected the risk of cardiovascular disease. And they've found, as the headline there states, 560 to 610 minutes of exercise a week is needed for substantial heart benefits. Now, I am not good enough at maths to do this quickly, and it's probably going to take even longer for me to find a calculator on here. Let's say 560 divided by 60. That's 9 hours. Is that 9 hours? Can somebody in the comments get back to me on that? Let me know. Is that 9 hours? I believe that's 9 hours. 9.5 hours. 560 minutes a week. So you need to do 9 hours a week of exercise to get substantial heart health benefits. That's crazy, isn't it? Is that crazy? Apparently, we used to say 150 minutes a week, which is only, less than 3 hours, 2.5 hours or so. Absolutely crazy. And what they said here is this is between 3 to 4 times higher than the current public health recommendation that adults do at least 150 minutes a week of moderate to vigorous physical exercise, such as brisk walking, running, or cycling. Now, I am a big fan of incorporating things like exercise into everyday life. The goal or the thought process for me is to don't shy away from physical activity as part of your everyday life. For instance, if you're going to go down the shops, walk. Don't take the car. For me, at the moment, because my car's off the road, I'm taking the bus and riding my bike to work, which is a 2-hour bike ride, and similar by the bus, which involves a bunch of walking. And I get a little bit sweaty. I'm out in the environment. I'm wearing a backpack because I take a few things with me. And it's really good for me, I think. I don't think I hit these kind of markers. Although, actually, I'd probably get close by the end of the week. Even just having a dog and making sure that you take your dog for a walk every day. That kind of stuff. Go for a long walk on the beach. Again, riding a bike to go places. Like, if you're going to go to if you and your partner want to go have breakfast on the weekend, ride your bike to get there or walk to get there, especially if you live somewhere like I do in Melbourne, where you have the luxury of many cafes around and stuff like that, which is great. Gardening is another one that I think is fantastic. Just the general bending, squatting, lifting, manual labour of gardening in your back garden is fantastic. Doing all that kind of stuff in order to hit these kind of times and markers and stuff. As it says, brisk walk is enough, which is, I think, fantastic. And we all know that weight training is good for bones and good for muscle and just general strength and longevity. So that's where gardening for me comes in. But it's that whole thing of try not to avoid physical labour. Don't just get up from your desk or you're sitting at home to get in the car and sit, to go to work and sit, all that kind of stuff. Even though at the moment I'm trying to get away from physically demanding work. But these kind of numbers are just crazy. 9 hours a week. So what? How many hours? If we do, let's say it's 9.5, but that was for the 560 instead of the 610. So let's say it's 10 hours a week. So that's 2 hours. 2 hours a day, and then rest on the weekends, or 1.5 hours a day, and then a little bit of light stuff on the weekend. So it effectively means you need to have a sport-like hobby that you do every day after work. And to be honest, let's think about it. If you're working all day, your mind's going hard, you're an office worker, blah, 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 and then you go to your physical activity hobby in the evening and do an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours, that's fantastic. That's going to be good for you. You get the brain, clear out the brain a little bit, all that kind of stuff. That said, though, you've got an 8-hour job. You then do an hour and a half to 2 hours. That's 10 hours. You then come home. You've got a partner. You've got the. It's crazy how these things build up. And if you're anything like me, you're trying to do a second job. You're trying to do other things to generate income. It's I don't know how we're supposed to do it, to be honest. This has turned in. This was meant to be a humorous "Who's got time for that amount of exercise" headline, but it's turned into a much more depressing. Oh my God, what the hell? How are we supposed to live if we're doing this kind of thing? So again, my attitude is if you've got the possibility to walk or ride a bike to work as a commute, because obviously you can get a bit sweaty, so it depends. You've got to have the facility to clean up a bit, depending on your job. Do that. If you're going to go down the shops at any point throughout the week, walk, ride, get a dog and force yourself to go to the park and go for a walk. Try to walk. I like the idea also of walking on uneven surfaces. So go to the beach, walk on grass and stuff, because that works your ankles and your hips and everything like that. But again, 560 to 610 minutes of moderate to vigorous physical activity. And that'll substantially reduce the risk of heart attacks and stroke, is what this observational study, which was published in the British Journal of Sports Medicine. So that's an observational study. So they didn't actually study people. They just observed what people did and then took some information from that. So maybe you don't have to do 9 hours a week. Maybe you can drop that down, just do an hour a day, do 7 hours a week. And again, that's your commute. If you ride a bike to work, that's your commute. And you're doubling up. You're commuting and you're also riding. I also like to listen to a podcast whilst I do it. One earphone, and especially with headphones now that have got the mics on them and you can still hear the outside world. It doesn't like block it off. So you can still hear everything. But you're riding your bike. You're listening to a podcast, potentially educational, potentially humorous. And you're commuting. 3 things all in one. That's my advice to you. I am still overweight and tubby, even though I've been doing that kind of stuff. And yesterday, I actually felt a bit of a pain in my chest. So maybe I'm not the best person to be giving advice on this kind of stuff, but that's my theory anyway. I think that that's a good way to do it. Quickly here, data on smoking status, alcohol intake, self-related health and diet, body mass index, heart rate, resting heart rate, and blood pressure were also included in the analysis. So they did take into account all these things. Again, moderate alcohol use isn't terrible. I want to say moderate smoking is okay, but what's moderate smoking? One a day? One cigarette a day? I don't know. BMI, body mass index, is bullshit. And all this other stuff is all, but it all adds up. You add it all together for this kind of stuff. In order to achieve substantial protection, classed as greater than a 30% risk reduction, between 560 and 610 minutes of moderate to vigorous exercise was needed. However, this level of exercise was only achieved by 12% of the people in the study. So this was a 7.8 years. They couldn't have just gone 8 years. An 8-year study on all these people. So, yeah, a 30% risk if you were able to do this kind of exercise, but only 12% of the people do it. In other words, like all studies, it's open to interpretation, and the more you read it, the more you go. But what we can assume is if you exercise more, you're going to be better off. That's all it comes. All of these studies, all of these gurus and everything, it all comes down to if you exercise more, you will be better off. And so that's why I like riding my bike and walking to the bus and stuff like that. Even though I got off the bus last night and oh man, was I not like the walk home was just like, grrr. It was terrible. And I went to the servo and bought ice cream. I had an ice cream as I was, I had 2 ice creams and a Reese's peanut butter cup. Let's be honest, we're sharing. And again, it's the later part of the podcast. No one listens or watches this. So no one's going to ever hear this. So I can be completely honest. So I probably destroyed any of the benefits of doing that. But I had vegetables in my breakfast, and I'm going to do that again today. So I'm fine. I'm fine with that. I should have maybe just had 1 ice cream, not 2. Have you noticed the price of ice creams has gone up ridiculously lately? Anyway, exercise more. That's what we've established from that. I don't know what else to tell you.
You don't need a horsey for a ride. You don't need a frozen pond to slide. A ride and a slide are always there when you're nice and comfy in a dentist chair. You don't...
Whoa. Horatio's trying to get you to sit in the dentist chair, which if you were listening yesterday, which you weren't, you'll know that in order to be a dentist, you need a chair to be a dentist. That's what we learnt yesterday. So, yeah. Donald Trump sues his own government, then settled for nearly $2 billion and a forever ban on auditing his family business. This guy has to be the most corrupt person to ever hold office, maybe anywhere. He's putting people like the Marcos family and shit all to shame with this kind of stuff. The president's IRS settlement created a fund worth $1.776 billion that could support January 6 rioters and other Trump allies. What you need to know from People magazine is that President Donald Trump is facing criticism for the creation of a $1.8 billion anti-weaponization fund, which will be awarded to his political allies. Trump told reporters that some of the fund could be awarded to January 6 rioters. Following the settlement agreement, Trump's Justice Department also forever barred the IRS from pursuing examinations of Trump and affiliated individuals or companies. Very quickly, I'll show you some of the inverted commas there, just to know, you get the quote correct, that kind of thing. It's dodgy as all hell. It's mind-boggling that this is happening and that this kind of thing he's getting away with. If this is the kind of stuff you hear in some other third world country that you never expect. Like, you go, oh yeah, no, that happens in dodgy countries. You don't associate it with legitimate countries that you think of. You think of the United States as being fairly legitimate. I just bit my tongue. Legitimate. But they're not. It's just the same. This is the kind of shit that makes me lean towards anarchism. Where, and again, anarchism for me doesn't mean no structure and no infrastructure. It just means no rulers and no kings. And people with this kind of power, because it's abusable. They can abuse it. And Donald Trump is the dodgiest of dodgy, always has been. And this kind of thing, where he's said so many times in the past that he likes people who like him. He likes when people are nice to him. And he rewards people who are just loyal and do what he says. He doesn't want conflict. He doesn't want people talking back to him. He then just insults them when they do, when people call him out. And to me, that's a terrible, terrible leader. That is not someone you want in a position of power and a position like this, because it's terrible. He's going to start pushing oligarchs out windows in a minute. It's just so dodgy. And the fact that People magazine is running this as well. I've seen this all over the internet in the last 24 hours. It's absolutely crazy, because he's literally just saying, if you're on my team, I'll try and protect you regardless of what you've done. And that's where you get real. That's something that really annoys me. Is I've got loyalty in terms of, if you're a close friend or something and you need something, I'll do what I can for you. But if you do something that's so bad that's like goes against my moral fiber or my ethics and stuff like that, then you're done. And I've got a lot of leeway. Like, I've got a lot of compassionate understanding like in my brain. I try to be very compassionate and be very understanding of the reasons why people do things and stuff like that. But there's a certain point where I'm just like, no. You've gone too far. I can't go with that anymore. I can't be that. And of course, higher loyalty means you've got a bigger scope to do stuff. But the people that attacked the Capitol on January 6th, the January 6th rioters, should not be getting compensation and money because they were arrested and put in jail. They did something wrong. Like, it's mind-boggling. It really doesn't make any sense to me. Not that I feel like I'm that knowledgeable about it, but having American culture and politics somewhat pushed on us based on our social medias and things means that we've heard about it. We know it. We know what was happening at the time. I even somewhat stupidly posted a thing at the time that suggested it wasn't as bad as people were claiming. But it turns out it was pretty bad. And I think I was a bit wrong on that one. It was pretty bad. The way there's that footage of them grabbing a cop and dragging him into the crowd and beating. It's like really messed up stuff. And the way that Trump talks about it is as though it's us versus them. It's left, right, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, no. It's government and organisation, which is meant to be the people, and riotous, crazy people who think that if they swarm the government or the building, they can overturn the election. And Trump inspired and encouraged that. And now he's going to reward, like he pardoned them all and then he got them out. Like it's just insane. It really is. And I feel for the American people, because as we know, there are good American people. It's not like we make fun of America when you're outside of America because of the craziness that goes on there. But there are good people there. They're just different. Just like any country. Any country's got good and bad. We've got bad people here in Australia. We've got stereotypes. We've got idiots. And that's everywhere. But there's also some really lovely people here. And there's some people doing real good stuff. And it's the same in the United States. And so I feel bad for the people that, again, according to my viewpoint on the world, are doing good things, because there are people in power like this who are doing what appears to be clearly bad things. I mean, the fact that they've also included that that caveat of the IRS is forever barred from doing examinations of Trump's taxes. Are you kidding? As they always say, the president is not above the law. The president is doing a job. But Trump is acting like he is a king and a ruler, and I think there needs to be even more no kings protests, in my opinion, because I'm not a fan of kings, and I'm not a fan of dictators, and I'm not a fan of this kind of political stuff. And it just continues to send more worry throughout the future for me, because if you've got Trump in America doing this kind of stuff, and if he tries to stay in power after this term, what's going to happen then? And if somebody from his party then just takes over, what the hell? Or someone along his same mentality and line of thinking, then you've got China, same thing happening. You've got Russia, same thing happening. Where does the rest of us stand? And what happens when these three powers just say, hey, we're in charge, we're doing whatever we want. Anyone who says the otherwise gets beaten and killed. It's very worrying, it's very concerning, and I'm somewhat away from it, and I shouldn't have an opinion according to some people, and all that kind of stuff. But anyway, I've gone over time, so there's even less likelihood that anyone's listening at this point. If you are listening at this point, remember, if you listen this far, all you have to do is send me a email at bobbyfreakout@gmail.com, and you can have this record, Jolly Dr. Dollywell, the record of the week. I will have to use it again, or I want to use it again tomorrow, and I don't really want to get rid of it, because I want to try and experiment and take some samples and make some art with it. But if you can prove that you're listening this far into the show, you can have that record. I'll throw in some other records as well. Thank you very much for tuning in. This has been the Daily Freakout. Let me turn the sampler back on, because the battery started to go low on that one as well. Batteries. I understand why people just plug into the mains, but I want to do this all from battery. I'm thinking next week we're going to actually do a live out in the field episode using all the technology, so that'll be fun. Please tune in then, and I will see you. Oh no, the sampler's not going to work. Oh no, we've gone too long. Let's see, quick, come on, can we do it? Can you do it? Just let me play one. There we go. This is the Daily Freakout. I'm Bobby. Oh, it's stopped. I'm Bobby Freakout. This is the Daily Freakout. Thank you very much for tuning in. I'll see you tomorrow.